folks, I hope your day's going well. If it isn't, it just makes my job easier. You know, folks, there are two types of action movies coming out of the Hollywood system nowadays. You have those that are trying to recapture the bare-bones, rough-and-tumble, character-driven style of those edgy thrillers from the 70s, and those that are trying to recapture the high-caliber, larger-than-life, action-driven explosion fests from the 1980s. Sylvester Stallone's 2010 masterpiece by the name of The Expendables is definitely the latter. In this film, Sly takes on the role of Barney Ross, who is a certified hard-ass who leads a group of certified badasses, appropriately called the Expendables. They're a band of mercenaries based out of New Orleans, willing to take care of any problem you have, no matter how dirty the job is, as long as you're willing to pay the right price for it. And they've just been called into action by a mysterious CIA operator by the name of Mr. Church, who is sending them to Valena, a small banana republic island in the Gulf, to take out one General Garza, a power-hungry dictator who has just overthrown Valena's half-assed government. Garza, however, is only a secondary target. The real target is a fellow agent of Church's by the name of James Monroe, who is turning Valena into his own private drug factory and utilizing Garza's military as his own band of private mercenaries. And it soon turns out that their contact in Valena is none other than Garza's own daughter, and one of their own has just abandoned them to sell his services to Monroe. What? Oh, you were expecting an intricately woven storyline with multiple different layers and complex three-dimensional characters? Well, screw you. This film wasn't directed by Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese or James Cameron. It's Sylvester frickin' Stallone. And what does that mean, folks? Well, it basically means that you're gonna grab a big gulp, you're gonna grab yourself some popcorn, and you're gonna watch people get blown up for 2 friggin' hours. Given that Stallone, who, by the way, is also a co-writer and the director of this movie, belongs to an entire generation of actors who many feel are the embodiment of the action hero. Let's just say he knows more than a few things about how to make a good action film. And in my initial attempts to write this review out, I tried my damnedest to explain the action in this movie when I realized there's no good way to explain the action. Not to say that it's not good, because, trust me, it is good. The thing, though, is that there's no good way for me to describe the action sequences in this movie without feeling as if I'm downplaying things. So instead, I'm going to show you a few clips just to entice you and suck you in. A few clips of action in this movie, but before you watch them, be advised that Stallone is one of the few directors working in Hollywood today who actually likes to blow crap up for real. Yeah. I don't want to start a bandwagon or jump on a bandwagon and say this movie kicks the hell out of anything in Michael Bay's filmography, but this film kicks the hell out of anything in Michael Bay's filmography. Yeah. And bear in mind that all of these guys are pretty much doing most of their own stunts, including Stallone, who Sly is still doing stunts in this film, and at the time of this movie, or rather, as I'm doing this review now, he's about at the ripe old age of 68 and still doing action movies. Unfortunately, you can see that this was a labor-intensive film for him, for having to work with the actors, set up the shoot, then run and jump, then come back and still be somewhat coherent. As Terry Crews tells it, this film was a labor of love for Sly, and it damn near killed him. Now, I, for one, find that extremely admirable. I mean, here's a guy who probably should be winding down at his ripe old age, and instead he's winding up. For me, however, what really sells this movie is the cast. We've got a number of action film veterans and guys who aren't mainly major players in the action film circuit, but are still hungry for doing projects along this level. Sylvester Stallone, of course, plays Ross.
Let him go, Gunner.
How you doing, Barney?
Pretty good.
Now, my partner here kicked me with steel-tip boots. Can you believe that?
You deserved it.
I think I'll need stitches.
Maybe.
I need stitches.
Everyone does. Let him go, Gunner.
Let him go.
Let him go.
Jason Statham, the UK's modern-day equivalent to Chuck Norris, plays resident heartthrob Lee Christmas.
What do you want?
Your life. I was thinking about taking it.
That right.
But I don't do so well in tight spaces, son. Going to prison worries me.
Jet Li, one of the heirs to Bruce Lee's throne as king of Hong Kong Kung Fu films, plays the team's Fists of Fury, Yin Yang.
My life is difficult. I need more money.
Why is that?
I work harder than the rest.
Oh, you don't.
Yes, I do. Because they're taller. Everything is harder for me. When I get hurt, the only is bigger. Because I'm smaller. When I travel, I need to go farther.
I know, because you're smaller, right?
Yes. My life is harder than you think.
Dolph Lundgren, who I feel has been basically ignored for his entire career, plays resident loose cannon Gunnar Jensen.
This case is a bloody joke.
Life's a joke. Shit, man! If you don't want that Fu Manchu knocked back to the 60s, you better keep your gum chewing trap shut and show some respect. Bring it. Hey, you nice? Need a facelift, pretty boy?
Randy Couture, ironically a former sergeant in the 101st Airborne, plays Toll Road, who is to his ear what Barack Obama is to criticism.
We all know I wrestled in college.
Right.
Common injury associated with that sport is trauma to the ear, a clot, which if left unattended causes a contraction in the cartilage and forms cauliflower ears.
And you pointed.
It ain't easy being green.
Terry Crews, aka Old Spice's Spoke Schmuck, plays the big boy who likes the big guns, Hail Caesar.
I want you to meet my girlfriend. Omaya Kaboom.
Playing the role of James Monroe is, believe it or not, actually a serious dramatic actor by the name of Eric Roberts.
I am your lifeline. I am the one who coordinates all this confusion. I am making you rich, and being wealthy is very good. It allows people to be the real asswipes nature intended them to be.
And playing his infantile lackeys are European kickboxer Gary Daniels and the former beer-swelling, trash-talking, blue-collar wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin.
You know, if you didn't have this kid like this, your inside's gonna be like fucking mush.
You're real tough. Are you a real tough guy? Look at me, you piece of trash. How many men you got? Just your mother.
Also having their own personal cameos in this film are Mr. Yippee-Ki-Yay Bruce Willis and the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, in a scene with him, Willis, and Sly that is basically 85% inside jokes, and the remaining 15% actual plot movement.
Big Bonnie Ross. Bigger Trent Mouse. What are you doing? Praying for Brooke. Could be. Have you been sick? You lost weight? Really? No, whatever weight I lost, you found, pal.
You guys aren't gonna start sucking each other's dicks, are you? Let's get down to business.
Mickey Rourke plays the role of Toolbox, the guy who brings in the jobs for the Expendables to take on. He also serves as the resident philosopher and tattoo artist.
Why don't you let me doodle like a Charlotte's Web on your head, on the top of your head? You know, something different, something exciting. Because you got one of them perfectly shaped, dome, muscular heads, and I could put a little web on the top of the head, maybe a pregnant Charlotte coming out of your ear, peeking around, making sure that bugs don't come inside. Her long leg dangling down your neck. Yeah, sexy, right?
Very sexy.
Give you a little mystery, a little more character, and very sexy. You understand?
Makes her stand out.
And rounding off the cast are David Zayas as Garza,
I thought the people of Renera hired these mercenaries to kill me. But then I think maybe this is your plan, because you cannot control me. And torturing Sandra works for you.
and Brazilian actress Gisele Iti as Garza's daughter Sandra.
But someday, all this will change back.
You really believe that?
Yes. The best day will be the one when we can say our lives are our own again.
What surprises me with this film for its simple premise and presentation is how surprisingly complex it is. Now, Sly has always tried to maintain a sense of the times with his films, you know, and bring things to light that aren't necessarily discussed on the news. A few examples. The film opens with the team taking out a group of Somalian pirates.
What's that?
In a text.
Excuse me?
Now, piracy is something that rarely ever gets discussed on the news, unless it ends pretty much in the exact same way that Captain Phillips did.
Execute.
Valena is one of a number of Banana Republic nations that are constantly popping up south of the equator, yet we almost never hear about it. There's also a scene where, I'm not going to say who all was involved in it, but let's just say it involves waterboarding. Now, of course, waterboarding is a tactic that the CIA used on terrorist operatives to help us find the location of Osama bin Laden. But it wasn't really being discussed on the news at the time of its use. Of course, now it's turned into this big thing, waterboarding is torture, which I can think of 1,000 worse things you could do to a man than pour water on his face. Of course, the Expendables are very complex characters with mysterious pasts. They speak in shorthand sentences and rarely, if ever, engage in elongated speeches. These guys are guys that you can and will enjoy watching kick ass, even if Ross, Christmas, and Yang are pretty much hogging up the screen for most of the film's 103-minute runtime. Lastly, the soundtrack. Now, you may have heard pieces of it throughout the clips I've showed you so far. This film contains a bevy of what I like to call swamp rock. Tracks that help get a feel for the environment that these guys hail from, a very New Orleans rock and roll type of feel. And when the action heats up and the swamp rock isn't going on, Brian Tyler's driving symphony is enough to further assist the sequences in driving forward. The Expendables is more than just a generic rank-and-file blow-crap-up for 2 hours action flick. It's but rather a testament to the kind of action that graced silver screens worldwide during the 1980s. In a modern-day Hollywood that's plagued by oblivious cash grabs, unnecessary remakes, comedies that are about as funny as genocide, and overacted melodramas that do nothing but further legitimize every negative stereotype of the book, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lifetime Channel, I'm looking at you. This film is more than a breath of fresh air. It's classic action in a contemporary setting, and is more than welcome in my book. I want to know what you guys think out there in YouTube land. Leave me a comment, send a private message. Do you like this movie? Do you like these type of movies? Like, favorite, subscribe, whatever you choose. I'm Chris the Liberty Gamer saying so long, have a good one.